The biggest part for me right now is I'm testing a lot of link stuff, like I told you. And when I publish the test, I'm doing the 10 controls and then I make one test page, but I don't know which one is the tool, like pre-indexing, unless I wait for it all to index and then figure out and kind of find the placement. Like, what is the link for the test page? Once I figure that out, it'll be off to the races because I got Twitter mention tests cooking. I got the SEO autopilot tests that are doing really cool things, and I'm learning a lot about the trouble wait period. The anchor text ratio, I'm learning a lot about that. Like, if you want to bury your site really quick, put 60% anchor text on web twos. Like, I killed a site like that. So that kind of stuff is pretty interesting, but I want to be able to scale it with the testing tool. So.
Well, after I get the editor released, I'll do a test tool update and we'll get some of those features in.
Oh, nice. Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome to SEO This Week, episode 151. We're rocking along. As always, joined by my good friend Ted Kubitis. Welcome, Ted.
Hello.
How are things? You guys just got back from the Phoenix Open, right? I saw some pictures of that.
Yeah. We had a couple winners over in our community, and they won an all expense, all you can eat, all you can drink, multi-day experience at the Phoenix Open, where we spilled every secret we have. So it was a lot of fun. It was a heck of an event.
Yeah, that sounds like it would have been cool. I don't know that I wanted to be walking around Phoenix, but it was a good time of year to do it. It wasn't boiling, so.
Well, we had clubhouse tickets, so we had the indoor bar and a look over the 18th hole.
Spoiling.
So yeah, it was cool.
Tools. The content tool, we talked about that last week, kind of gave a hinter off of it. You have what, one or two more things to knock out and then you're going to release it?
Yeah, I'm just performance testing it and also working out the last few kinks and the duplicate content highlighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so once those work to my satisfaction, I'm launching.
Nice. That's going to be awesome. Okay, cool. So like this week-ish, I should be able to do my video and promote it, right?
Yeah. Like any day now, a couple breakthroughs on these tickets and it's done. So it could be today even.
Oh, nice. Exciting. If you guys don't know, my shirt is really close to my green screen color. So as I lean back and forth and pace and stuff, Zoom is nice enough to turn me invisible, which is kind of awesome. I kind of dig that. It's a good pattern interrupt.
No, we know you're just a big floating head. Computers are at
like Max Headroom. That'd be awesome. Max Headroom play on it. That'd be cool. So with that being said, let me turn on the news here. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. Just some minor stories this week. Some stuff that's kind of thought-provoking. I thought that you might enjoy. And then the site audit this week is electronic cigarettes, because I was doing some OMG watching Greg Morrison and some of his videos, and he always talks about e-cigarettes and that stuff for his e-commerce stuff. He's really big in that market, so I figured, what the heck, let's do an audit on one of those. So I already ran Cora, so Ted's got that for his insights, and then I brought some stuff up with Surfer and Sightbulb and Screaming Frog that I think you guys will find pretty interesting, especially when it goes to regards to crawling. Excuse me, I had to cough that out. So with that being said, let's get on with the news. And this one is a report that URL capitalization in SEO, does it really matter? It's kind of a question that people have. And the answer is, what do you think? What do you think the answer would be, Ted?
Well,
Kind of
I
doing
think that one's a bit more tricky because you get words that change meaning based on capitalization, like Polish and polish.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So there are going to be collateral edge cases if you make search case insensitive.
Well, John Mueller says you can do it whatever you want. So if you want to write all of yours in all capital letters or sentence case or title case or whatever, he says knock yourselves out.
Well, another one would be acronyms. So ICE being, the border patrol agency versus ICE, the thing you put in drinks to keep them cold.
Oh, that's a good one. He did point out though that if you did that, let's say you could have two. So in your ICE example, for example, you could have ICE for the Border Patrol Agency, all capital letters, and then have another one, ICE, all small case, lowercase letters, and they can be two separate pages of content, which could screw things up if you're using capitalization. Because, for instance, if I'm typing in tedkubitis.com /ICE and I'm looking for his immigration post, I'm not going to find it. I'm going to find the one on his water. Or somehow that turns into duplicate content where you have the same thing on both of those pages. And since they're two different unique URLs and the URL is case sensitive, Google will actually index both of them or crawl both of them and see that as duplicate content. So there's an issue there for SEO if you're thinking about cases and case sensitivity.
Yeah, and then there are proper nouns, which would be a problem like Swift. So Swift with a capital letter could be a pop star, could be a programming language, but with a lowercase s
Or a
means
trucking company.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would be inclined to say that capitalization could matter. I have not tested that, but I would be surprised if Google is case insensitive.
Yeah. That would be pretty. Sounds like an interesting test. A little hard to set up. I would think that even in your tool, right? Because you have to tell your tool, all your control cases will all be lowercase, for example. And then how would you tell the tool to make the test page use capitalization inside of the.
Well, you can specify a custom shared keyword,
Uh-huh.
and then you could use that shared keyword in all the zones you want to test within the URL, the title, the headings.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Huh. Let's try that out. Maybe I can do because I redid your in your documentation. You have the HTML tags one. That's one that I really wanted to do and like keep running. So I took a specification that you did and remade that test. That would be a good one to switch it over, and I can use that same specifications and just apply the custom keyword you like, or the custom keyword to that process, right?
Yep. But if I was going to retest the whole HTML spec again, I wouldn't do it in one leaderboard. You hit indexing issues when you try to have hundreds of test cases.
Yeah.
So I'd probably break it into, 20 to 40 test case blocks of related types of tags.
I'm doing okay. I sent that to the Omega indexer and I just ran it today. I looked at it today. And most of my sites are sitting at 100%. And I have like a couple domains across all of my tests that are consistently not indexing. So,
well, the thing is, 2-3 weeks from now, don't be surprised if those all drop to 30% indexed.
Yeah. Well, I figure the best option for that is just every once in a while when I see that, or if I'm following that, just kind of run through and send them to the Omega Indexer or maybe even co-linker as a matter of course to keep them recrawled. Maybe that'll help.
Maybe it'd be good to know if that's a working best practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Because before 6-8 months ago, we could just test them and they'd stay indexed, at least for a few months.
Yeah.
But now it seems like things are a bit trickier.
Yeah, even indexing has kind of been a pain. So I had to do the whole, follow Ted's advice and put them all in Search Console and all that stuff. I was like, oh, this is so boring. But thank God your tool does give some URLs and it builds the sitemaps and stuff, or else it would be so tedious. Okay, so now we got completely off of track on capitalization. That's that story. You guys can check that out. This one was really funny. So this guy took 99 cell phones, put them in a wagon, and walked down the street. And Google Maps picked it up as a traffic jam. And everyone who was, potentially everyone that was going to this place in this city got and wanted to use directions were rerouted around said traffic jam, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. Bill found this in SIA and he shared it in SIA, and I saw it in a few other groups and stuff. And instantly I thought, what about if I take 99 cell phones? I'm not going to do it because screw that, it's too much work. But what if I take 99 cell phones, do driving directions to said a business like mine, for example, go from my house to my office, and throw them in my backpack and drive to the location? Will that boost my rankings? That's an interesting test.
Well, this is kind of a scary notion, because the first thing that comes to mind for me in this day and age is like terrorism and security. And if all of a sudden you can artificially force traffic that you're expecting onto a specific path, that's a scary notion that an individual can reroute traffic on a major scale.
Assuming that everyone's or the impact was that much. Yeah, that's a good point too. But that's really dark, Ted. I'm thinking about how am I going to benefit without being a terrorist. So
no, that's total black hat. I would imagine by this time next year that's like a federal crime to use cell phones to reroute traffic through navigation apps. I bet you that becomes highly illegal.
Huh, we'll see. Well, Holly will find out because she's going to be the first one to try it out. I knew she was as soon as she saw it. Another one that I was thinking of is if you want to simulate walk-in traffic, as the whole crowd is going from I don't know, one store to another inside the mall or inside your shopping center. You could probably manipulate it with that. I would think of this would be kind of like 99. You'd get tired of doing that really quick though. Maybe 10 you could kind of play around with, but 99, that would just be madness. Walking in, checking in, and all that stuff. But it might be a good way to turn that into an income if it actually works out. So you just find someone who wants to make a little bit of money, charge businesses $250 or whatever. I think Bill recommended $250 a week to just walk your 99 phones over to their office and simulate traffic inside of their stores. So that would be pretty interesting. Another one might be the beacons. If you're using like a Facebook or a Google beacon, and just walk those phones up to the beacons inside of your restaurants or your retail stores if you have beacons for your different products and stuff there. So some implications here. Obviously, the map stuff and manipulating that and kind of playing around with that, or you can go full on terrorist like Ted said, and maybe potentially get yourself thrown in jail. So if Holly goes to jail sometime this year in 2020, we know that it was Ted's fault. Okay, next one, double dipping on featured snippets. We talked about this last week where Google changed it so that if you get the what everyone used to call position 0 and it's now essentially position 1. So if there's a featured snippet there and you have it, you're ranking number 1 in Google. The problem is for a lot of people that the page, in this case, this Moz optimized featured snippets page will get pushed to page 2. And then we saw reports recently within the last few days that it's actually not page 2 anymore. They're wiping it completely out of the top 100. So if you get this, this page won't be listed anywhere in the top 100, which kind of makes sense. It's query deserves diversity, right? Wouldn't you say, Ted,
Well,
that application makes sense?
There's reports of a partial rollback where if you get the side panel featured snippet, you're still allowed to be on page 1.
Yeah. That would have to make sense though, because side panel is really like what brands you're doing, brand name search. And if you erase all of you erase the homepage from the site, from the organic on a brand name search, it's kind of dicked up. So that's nice to see that would be fixed.
Yeah. So it sounded like there was a partial rollback about 3 or 4 days after, but still, sticky situation.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people were talking, do you want to use the no snippet or max snippet
Well, I think
codes to make sure that you don't get that anymore?
you need to look at your traffic. Like if you have it and you're wondering what was better, you kind of need to look at your traffic and conversions and figure out what's actually best for the business's bottom line and make a business decision. Don't make a technical SEO decision, and don't do it without the consent of the business, because this is really a business decision in targeting customers, and either the number one spot in the organic results or the featured snippet is going to be the best way to target customers. And you really need to do the analysis and make sure you don't mess that up.
This is a good lead in, because that's what CXL did for Wikipedia. And they went through and they don't have the pure analytics. They have to use a tool. So they used the Ahrefs and they looked at the limitations and see how many feature snippets they have, where they lost kind of in that organic, for lack of a better term, where they lost page views as reported by Ahrefs, which may or may not be accurate. So you kind of take this with a grain of salt, but you can go through the same process with your own data and even your own analytics. But across the board, they pretty much saw that page views declined across Wikipedia, and even the ones with feature snippets almost lost 7% of page views in some of these cases. The average lost 2.1% across the board for them. So in the case of Wikipedia, it was definitely not a good thing that they went the feature snippet. This is not the only site that I've seen, or SEO for that matter, that I've seen that said, hey, I want all these feature snippets, but all my traffic is down. So like Ted was saying, you need to go through that process. And first, I don't know, Ted, what would you do? You would see the traffic's down, but maybe your conversions are up. So if your conversions are up but your traffic's down, then who cares, right? Because you're making more money, you're making more revenue.
Well, yeah,
revenue increase.
Dollars are the best KPI, and conversions are the second best KPI, and traffic is the third best API, and rankings are last place.
All right.
So you want to use the best KPI you have data for. And so hopefully you have access to organic revenue, and you can see whether or not losing the organic ranking to maintain the snippet was a net gain or a net loss in revenue, and how much.
Uh-huh.
And if you maintained, say, 80% of your revenue after losing the organic number one spot, then that number one spot was only contributing 20%. So if you switched, you'd probably lose the 80% to gain the 20%. But if after that update you lost 80%, well, then you might want to switch back, because then you might be able to get that 80% and lose the 20.
Well, that brings us up to this one here, is when do you make a decision to make another page? Because that one page won't be in the organic results. So you make another page targeting that, which kind of makes keyword cannibalization go away and try to rank that other one.
Oh yeah, that's totally the way I'd go. I would already have 15 websites. So, and it would be a no-brainer for me to say this one website always tries to get the snippet and the other ones try to get organic.
Try to get organic. And then all the roads lead to you, so then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Which is a great idea. That'd be pretty cool. That would be probably an argument if you're doing like a blog subdomain, for example. If you already have one of those set up and your original site's got a bunch of featured snippets, use your blog subdomain to go after the same keywords.
Yeah, or if you can, one of your Web 2.0 or social websites, one of your social properties, if you could get one of them to take the snippet, then, I'd be interested to experiment in doing that, because then you get the advantage of the domain authority on that.
I haven't seen a Web 2 inside this.
Yeah, there might be filters against that happening, but I don't think anybody's been, posting
actively trying
snippet tune stuff in Web 2.0s. But that might be a viable way to keep your money site away from the information listing, but still control that result.
That'd be a great test. I'll have to fire that off. And Lee's from IMG, and he's in there. He's a lead tester, and he can test that for IMG too. I'm gonna try Medium. Lee, pick another one. We'll see if we can get a featured snippet with a Web 2. That would be awesome. Let's see. And then Beanstalk internet marketing. This was I got a nerd post for Ted just so that he feels happy about himself. And this is talking about entities and how Google was looking at these phrase search queries and breaking them up into the entities and seeing the relations of, in this case, Piccadilly with street and 15 and Chinese restaurant and call, and how does that all turn into thing and say, all right, these are all those things that we're looking for, and I want to find it inside the search results. So this is a pretty interesting breakdown of a patent. Now, if you ever read the Bill Slosky stuff, he's probably, I think, without a doubt, the go-to source for these patent analysis. But this guy actually wrote it in English that even I can understand. So I definitely recommend checking this out and seeing the process of how they're breaking out these entities and how they're using those in that hierarchy to determine what the query is actually looking for. If you read this and you read the patent and you kind of play around with it and you're seeing what the query is looking for, it kind of goes back to my theory. I don't know if Ted shares it, but my theory is that Bert is trying to figure out what that query means, not what your content means, so that it can return the best thing.
Yeah, and that example was a voice search example, so that kind of puts a context on how they're probably using it.
And this is another one. This is a cool one. This hotel search, call the hotel that looks like a sale, and you see the result. It brings back the Burj Al Arab. I don't even know where the hell that hotel is at, but it looks like Dubai, and the hotel looks like a sale. And Bert knew that that's what what it was talking about. So that was a cool example. And there's a few other ones in there too to just kind of help you understand the concepts of it, and then what all that techno gobbledygook inside of the patent actually means and what it's trying to do. So.
Well, wait, let's test it really quickly. Type in who is the actor that looks like Trump?
Trumpet. 10 actors that could play Trump. The ultimate Trump.
It's not a knowledge pane, so it failed on. Google's notorious for this. They give an example that happens to work, but in general, their examples don't work.
Let's see.
Yeah, still didn't pull up the knowledge pane.
Yep.
I
think there's another one in here. Let's see if we can take another one in here and make a version. Looks like a sale. Oh, here's one. If the user is repeatedly searching for information specific to Robert Downey Jr., for example, and if the file inquiry was call him, the system would assume that he wanted to call Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. So this is all sequences of voice search.
So Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man.
And then call him.
Call him.
Where does he live or something?
Oh, yeah. Where does he live? Nope, it lied.
Yeah. See, they have examples that happen to work, but generally don't.
Let's see.
Yeah, try which insurance has a lizard?
Ooh, that's a good one. Has a lizard.
So the
Lizard
ads,
insurance.
yeah. So the ads get it more correct than the AI.
Yeah. How do you spell gecko?
It's 2 C's, right?
Sure. There it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Google.
All right, I got it.
There you go. Which insurance has a gecko? Geico. Which it might have got it right because it's right there. The Geico gecko.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Well, as you see, some of the examples are flawed, but it does give a good or a much better understanding of how they're using that phrase thing. I don't know what you think, Ted. Obviously, you probably haven't reviewed this. You're probably looking at the core thing, but there's the breakdown of the dependency of for this search term. These are the entities that it's dependent upon to get the right result, or so that their intent is anyway to get the right result.
Yeah, they're mapping the parts of speech. So call is, directed to the Chinese restaurant, and at is criteria for the Chinese restaurant, which one.
Uh-huh.
And so they're mapping the parts of speech into the targets of these actions.
And that's to build associations, right? To make sure you get a better result. Is that what?
And you'd need to do this to turn a voice search into an actual action, and so that's kind of what they're doing here. So I'm not surprised we can't get it to work in search, and it's probably not something they have completely dialed in yet. This is probably a direction they're hoping to go in the future. One of probably many. So who knows if this particular idea will win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
Could it also be an indication that maybe, because you said this query is definitely for a voice kind of action, an Android action, for lack of a better description, but couldn't that be that this patent would actually be applied to voice search, but not the desktop search, for example?
I would wager that a large percentage, maybe even a majority of Google patents don't make their way into public-facing product.
Yeah.
So the question really is there evidence to suggest this patent is in use? And so what I'd really like to see out of these types of websites is, we're going to dissect this patent, and the reason we're going to dissect it is because of these experiments, we think it's actually in use. And so they're dissecting the patents, but they're not doing the experiments to see if they're actually in use.
Right. Which is why I started reading more of these posts, because I was looking for experiment ideas, and this guy is actually doing a decent job.
Yeah, if they could give working examples that demonstrate that these things are in play, that would be a lot more meaningful.
Nice. Cool. All right. Sweet. And that was it for the news. I told you it was lights, but it was some good questions and stuff, and pull out that information out of there. So hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully, Ted, you found it useful, at least. I like picking stuff that you'll actually be interested in talking about sometimes. So let's see. Site audits. Best e-cigarettes is the term. Like I said, I was going through some OMG training. Their newest year, 2020 whatever they got is Traffic Tsunami, and they had Greg Morrison in his playbook, and he's got some cool ideas. So I was watching through that, and he was talking about e-cigarettes, which is one of his more consistent examples when he's building that site. So I looked up and found this one here on page 2. It's ebrandsandreviews.com. It was pretty cool site, and since it's here in 12, I figured that we'd probably be able to at least push it up into page 1 with some of our ideas and concepts. On a note for these, I actually did an audit on this site here. Ted, I don't know if you remember Green Jobs or not, but he has increased his. He took some of the advice with. Let's see if I can find that one. I have it right here. Horticulture Jobs took some of the advice, added content. He added video sets just like this that we were talking about, and he added all this interlinking that we were doing right here.
Nice.
He's still waiting on the positive or negative results in regards to rankings. However, his applications and requests to list jobs has jumped by, I think he said he got like 40 of them since implementing all these changes. So if anything, we increased the conversions of the site for him.
So yeah, it's still a bit early on the rankings, especially with all the updates. Like we know of like 5 noteworthy updates that Google did in January. So we got to give it a little time for the dust to settle on the rankings.
Yeah, I think one thing to know is he actually does the scripts and he makes them all himself. Let's see. I found the chat. I was with him where he gave me the numbers. Oh, looks like he might have deleted the numbers. 7 job postings in one morning versus what he was getting before. So that's awesome. We've definitely increased the conversions with the recommendations he got here. So I point that out just to let you guys know. Look, we're not doing these for our health. This is it teaches us some stuff, and it teaches you guys some stuff, and you implement some of these things and try it out. You're going to get some benefits from it. And if you want us to audit your site, then go ahead and let's do it. People are going to find your site anyway, afraid the internet's going to see it and steal your niche. Then you probably shouldn't be in that niche anyway, because that means that no one's.
Yeah. If I look at a URL and can't tell the keyword you're tuning for instantly, it's probably not going to rank well. So the idea of hiding your keyword from your competitors is basically a game of not ranking well.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the e-cigs. First off, I wanted to hit a technical thing. If you look at this page actually crawls like it's a one-page website. There are like SiteBulb, I found, I want to say a little over 100, close to 100 pages. But when you crawl it as Google, the site is essentially a one-page website. So there's one thing right there I want you guys to keep in mind. They do have a list for the brands that they're targeting, etc. And I think this one here, it's still in 2019, so it needs to be updated a little bit. Obviously, they're not specifically targeting the spelling that I chose, best e-cigarette. But I found that most people, especially when I was looking at electronic cigarettes, I didn't want to type electronic cigarettes. I choose e-cigarettes. So it seemed to me that would be a more converting, better term for them. But again, I'm not an e-cigarette affiliate. And certainly they could have actually thrown that in there a little bit better. And they tried with some of these things. But this is all one page, really narrow, not a whole lot of trust, no branding, etc. So this site, as bad as it is, like visually and structurally, is all on number 12. So I think with a few improvements, you can actually hit number 1. And the first thing that I look at is obviously is the H tags, and you can see there's no H1s, and then the H2s are kind of like all out there. They're overused. Basically, it's all the titles and the product names and stuff like that. Some of these are okay, um, but some of them I would remove. The H3s kind of a little bit along the same lines, and then there's no H4. So definitely fix that. Meta description is blank. That's something that you guys should test. I know Jimmy Kelly is teaching people to leave those blank and let Google figure it out.
I
I've
hate that
tested it,
idea.
and huh?
I hate that idea.
Yeah,
I know the impact of Google A/B testing in your meta description and its volatility in your rankings.
yeah,
And if you do it site wide, you're doing site wide volatility in your SEO. I think it's a terrible practice.
I've tried to like let Google figure it out, and then versus do put one in there and see which one is better. And one, I noticed the volatility you talk about. It's not significant, like it's like 3 to 7 to 4 to 9 to 1. You know, that kind of bouncing around.
It can be.
And then I've actually inputted the meta description in there, and that just kind of locks it in place, like you're talking about. So there's no
Yeah, yeah.
bouncing.
And if you're having trouble with indexing, like, you get up 3, down 3 if you're in, the top 20.
Uh-huh.
But if you're out on page 4 or 5 and you're getting that volatility, it can be in the search, out of the search. And yeah, I think site wide, not populating meta descriptions is a big mistake. I'd never do it.
Every time I've had an empty one and I put a keyword inside of one, and my rankings went up. So I'm a little hard pressed to say leave that open like that. Obviously, if you got a site with 1 million pages, you're probably going to need to figure out a way to do that programmatically. Because speaking from experience, I did have VAs load 25,000 on an e-commerce site, go in there one by one and update those, and it took them months. So there is that. So there is an argument for leaving it empty, but generally I would not recommend it. Domain's brand new. It says 1 year, but if you're looking at a lot of the content and stuff on this site, when I did the crawl, that's actually older stuff. So, but it's built kind of wonky, and I'll show you guys an example of that later. Okay, so Screaming Frog. Here's the issue. I crawled it with the user agent as Screaming Frog, and I crawled it with the different user agents inside of here for, I did it with Google. I did it with desktop here. I did it with BingBot, and it did not get through the rest of the site. So there's a crawl issue there. There's way more pages than this that are actually on the website, and it's not pulling it in from the sitemap either for whatever reason. So that certainly needs to be looked at. And I knew it as soon as I brought up the URL Explorer over here on Sitebulb, and Sitebulb actually found the sitemap URL in the robots text and pulled that out, and I had it driven that too. So there's a lot more stuff over on this website. And I wanted to bring this up so that you guys can see. I'm sharing a browser. You guys didn't even see the Sitebulb. I wanted to bring this up. This is an example of some of those pages that are there that are hidden. There's no links to this page, and this page does not link out to anything. Well, that's a lie. It's right here, and it links out to the product, but there's no internal links whatsoever. So there's no silo structure whatsoever, etc. Let me bring up my full window so I can show. Get that out of the way. When you look at the visualizations on the crawl map, it looks like that. So now you instantly know you got a silo structure issue, you got an internal linkings issue, and I'm not really even sure what the hell they were going for when they're just writing these all out. I can't imagine that the content was cheap, and you look at it, and it's not even there's no basic optimization of it or anything. So it certainly could use a whole lot of work. And there's a lot of, if you're going to review these, especially if you're going to have like a bestie cigarette review thing and you have a product page for each one of these, that product page and probably those products should all be interlinked together, and then linking to this, which ideally would probably be your highest converting page too. So I'm not, Ted, have you built any kind of affiliates review sites doing the best of, the top of kind of?
Well, can you scroll to the top? I see I see this kind of problem a lot in online retail where people will conjoin to try to double up on keywords. You know, people will make a category for socks and shoes, and it never ranks well because people don't search for socks and shoes. And so we have this e-cig brands and reviews is kind of what he's targeted here.
Right.
And if you can share that Google Trends image I sent to you on Skype, I'll show you why it's a bad idea.
Let's see. Google Trends.
So that first one, the blue one, that's your conjoined category. Your e-cig brands and reviews, which has no search volume. And when you break them apart, when you create separate targeting for them individually, you start to get traffic. And what they probably did was they saw that e-cig brands is about half of the searches and e-cig reviews is about the other half of the searches. So they tried to conjoin them into one thing, and they ended up targeting no search volume. And so I would try to have 2 pages that each target these separately instead of trying to make one page that does it all.
So these 2 would be good categories, for example.
Yep.
Okay. And while you're here,
yeah, and then there's a lot of tuning you need to do here. So there's putting the year in the title seems to be important for this, and those things correlated very strongly. That's why they're at the top of the list. So I'd try to make it relevant to this year because people are searching that way. Entities are important, especially for brands and online retail. And so we're finding that's a growing concern for online retail and e-com SEO. So I would try to identify the most critical entities for this topical space and make sure those are used throughout your page, especially in things like headings and in the URL. Factor diversity is also very important. So that's basically the number of things that correlate with rankings. How many of them are you using? There's a web spam algorithm that's documented called MC4 that basically says if you only use a minority of factors, those factors should be discounted. So diversity allows you to exploit your factors more. So if you have a lot of keyword stuffing, add a lot of diverse other factors so that you get more credit for that keyword stuffing.
Just so that people understand it a little bit better. So if I do, let's say I do title tag H3 and search and I leave it at that, potentially I could reduce my rankings. In order to balance that stuff out, I should also be doing entities and leading keywords in each ones and search each ones.
Exactly. If you're trying to game search by exploiting, 2 or 3 factors, the algorithm is designed to detect that and discount those 2 or 3 factors. That's why everybody in SEO knows somebody that was link building and started saying, this is awesome. And then they kept going until they had hundreds of thousands of links, and it like stopped working. Had diminishing returns. It just stopped working.
Right.
Because the only thing they have is that one trick. And the algorithm's designed to say, if you're a one trick pony, then discount the trick. And that's why some people can do it. It's why some people can keyword stuff, like we see with keywords like games. People keyword stuff to no end and they rank at the top. Well, why can they do it and you can't? Well, because they diversified their other factors.
Okay. That makes sense.
So
that's why that number of factors used is so important.
Yes. And this, kind of smacks as a website that's kind of lacking diversity in factors.
Right.
What's awesome here is that there's an off-page game going on, and you're only a little bit behind, needing less than 300 backlinks to be competitive for your niche. That's doable. That's something that, somebody like Clint would go, hey, we could do this. That's not hard. It's when you look at that number and you need, 87,000 more backlinks. It's like, ugh, but 300.
It's also doable. It just takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. But, that's something that you can do and make look natural. And there's no reason to not be the link leader in your space. So I'd bite that off. But clearly, your headings are a mess. And so you need to look at those. And in general, I like my headings to all be things that are keyword rich. And ideally, if you search the whole heading, that whole search string should have some search volume. That's what I think makes a good heading, is that the entire heading is a phrase with search volume. Otherwise, you pick the wrong one, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's how I build my H2s and H3s. I'll use related searches, or people also ask, and that kind of stuff.
Yep. And then seeing LSI in there, so it looks like there's kind of a narrow focus on the topical keywords, so maybe expand that with LSI and entities.
Let's talk about this number, because that's pretty dang high. 3,798. What does that mean?
Well, the LSI words are the things that would naturally come up when you talk about something. So your target keyword is kitchens, your LSI might be faucets, refrigerators, dishwashers. And so there's a lot of things that would naturally come up. But if you're kind of forcing your content to be keyword tuned to a specific phrase, you might have a bunch of garbage content that's lacking all of that stuff that would naturally come up if you were actually writing quality content. And so that lack of LSI is kind of, a way of saying, oh, this is kind of this is SEO content. This is an actual content that people are trying.
So when you see a number that big, though, how would you, and based off what you said, obviously you probably want to rewrite your content.
So you'd probably want to look. There might be an outlier that's pushing up the word count and pushing up that particular measurement. So you'd want to investigate the outliers. So within reason, if that's one that's expensive to compete with, then at least do a little better, make up some of the distance, if you can't make up all.
Okay. Could you, if I'm looking, let's say I have the LSI report, and this is pretty much across the board, as people are now kind of catching on and using entity reports too. But if I use entities more, will that counteract the need for more LSI, for example?
Well, I like to tell people to consider the entities as the LSI terms on steroids. So they're the cream of the crop LSI, because those are the nouns that we know Google understands. The great thing about entities is that they're in these public databases, Freebase and Wikidata. So you can actually go and look up the nouns that Google understands. And so if you pick the entities first, those are going to be your power LSI words.
Okay. Perfect. Sweet. That was a question that I've seen a lot of people asking across the board, especially considering all the tools are starting to add NLP and NLP concepts to it, and telling them to analyze your content using the NLP, et cetera. And I think I've mentioned it. I know you have. So that seemed like a good question to ask you at this time. And that's it. That completes episode 151. We've been here for an hour. If you guys have any questions, please drop them now. It's a good time. In the meantime, Ted's content tool, like you said in the beginning of the show, he might have that ready today, but certainly this week. And as soon as I get an affiliate link, because I'm a greedy capitalist, I'll do a nice video for you guys, show you how I'm using it. I got the beta version, and he was kind enough to let me use that and play with that, and I'll give you some ideas on how to use it and kind of how to leverage it. He designed it originally as Cora Lite, but it turned into this kick-ass content editor that's pretty cool. So we're gonna check that out. If, like I said, if he has it done. I know the topic on SEO Fight Club is going to be.
Oh, we're going to talk about the Google update storm. So in the month of January, there were 5 noteworthy updates that we were able to measure. And they span 3 different types of Google updates. And we're going to try to make sense of it, because people keep asking me, Ted, what changed in the update? Well, a lot changed in the updates.
Yeah, so come check that out, and then probably Thursday I'll do a live hangout showing off Ted's tool, assuming it's done. No pressure, Ted.
I'm working on it.
And I just wanted to wait till you guys can actually get it. I didn't want to show off the beta version and then have you sitting around for a week. So that's why we're going to do it that way. And then I wanted to announce that SEO Fight Club is now on Roku. So if you're a member of that service, go find SEO Fight Club. You can check out the episode last week in the comments. I put the link to the channel there. Carolyn Holtzman, she kindly volunteered. That was like a $10,000 job. She did it for us. And just kind of as a proof of concept to show that she could do it, etc. So she did that for free. So if you guys give her a shout out, that'd be awesome. And if you want your own Roku channel, go check her out. But please go subscribe to our channel. Carolyn recommended that, if you have an extra computer or something, or you just want that playing in the background, that will actually boost up the views on Roku and get us some more traction. It is not only in the United States, it's all over. She listed off a ton of countries. So I think hopefully you should all be able to see it. That'd be the goal there. And then finally, I wanted to close out with SEO spring training. If you guys are coming to Phoenix, you see Ted and I. Terry Samuel's going to be there. Elias from SEO Autopilot, he's flying in. He's got his visa. Marty, JC, a whole bunch of people are coming. So SEOspringtraining.com. You can come check us out. I'll be talking about schema. I'm doing IMG is hosting a pre-event, and you'll get to see some of the presentations or like some of the things that we're all talking about. Robert Patello, he's coming. He'll be speaking at SEO spring training as well. But you can check out the event in IMG. If you sign up, you can reserve for it. I saw the notification, so it's there, and so that'll be cool. And if you are looking to sponsor and get your brand out there and stuff, we're looking for sponsors for SEO spring training as well. Still, you don't even have to sponsor a whole lot. You can sponsor like an item in the Googie bag, or go all out and get your name on in lights or whatever. I don't know about lights, but if we're looking for sponsors, so contact me or Terry Samuels directly. And if you can't get a hold of Terry Samuels, let me know and I'll get you guys connected so you can be a sponsor. I think it would be a cool opportunity to get your brand out there. So we're expecting roughly 300, 350-ish people. So that's what we're shooting for anyway. I'm part of the planning committee if you haven't figured that out yet. So we'll see how that works out. Ted, you got anything?
Yeah, if you noticed last week we didn't stream live for SEO Fight Club. That was an accident. We are trying out a new service that lets people network before and after the show. And we forgot a checkbox that did the live streaming. We're doing the same thing again this week, but hopefully we will remember the checkbox and get that live streaming. So sorry about that last week. Hopefully works this week.
Yeah, I don't think you guys missed anything. It was the week before, by the way. Last week they didn't.
Oh yeah, the week before. Sorry. It's all
throw anyone off. People are like, oh, I missed it 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, last week they didn't have one. It was the week before. So
yeah,
it's good to go. Okay, so that's it. No questions. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week on SEO This Week.